Hey, welcome to the FwooshCast. This is Tony. I'm here again with Nick, and we have a very special guest with us today.
Very special.
Very special indeed. Brett. Say hello to the folks, Brett.
Hey, guys.
Brett has brought something very special with him today, and that is the results of the Fwoosh Marvel Legends Top 10 list.
Dun, 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 dun.
So, sometimes in the past, the Fwoosh has we've been a little it's taken a little time to get the results posted. Sometimes people are clamoring for those results. They want to know who won the poll, if their favorite people are made it into the top 10. Well, here we go. The poll just closed, and we're going to have not only the full results for you, but we're going to have them taped live here on the FwooshCast. So thank you, Brett, for making the time and bringing us the goods.
Yeah, he made exceptional time, and for the first time ever, you're getting the results first on the podcast, so you have to listen to hear them here first.
So, okay, now gearing up before we get to the good stuff, I looked up the most recent Marvel Legends top 10 that we did at the Fwoosh to check out who had won the last time, and it actually, for some reason, I was thinking it was much longer ago that we'd done one of these, but it looks like it was March 2013, that it may not seem like that long ago, but when you hear who was in this top 10, as I refresh your guys' memories, it's going to seem like a long time ago, because here's just a few that were in that top 10. Luke Cage, Jubilee, Dormammu, Gladiator. These are all figures now that have either come out or been announced since that poll. So that's like half of it right there. The winner was a tie between Enchantress and Polaris. And we also had Darkhawk, Silver Samurai, and Monica Rambeau rounded that out. So that's the going in here. That's the standing list.
It's like Hasbro listens to us.
That's right. That's right.
That would have been some great homework to do to go and look that up. I'm glad somebody decided.
Well, we can't all be Brown Lanterns, at least not at the same time. Brett, that is a good point that you bring up. Is that we don't mean to say that the Fwoosh Marvel Legends poll is some godlike importance that Hasbro is watching our every move.
Wait, who's not saying that?
Or maybe we are. But in all honesty, and Nick and I talked a little bit about this last week when we mentioned that you were going to be here. The Marvel Legends Top 10 poll on the Fwoosh is kind of it's one of the original Fwoosh central pillars that sort of brought the community together. And one of the great things is a lot of the guys who were working with Toy Biz at the time, and then on down the lines, a lot of the Hasbro guys do check out the boards. They are interested in the Fwoosh poll because not only that the voting sample is so large, but it's a great community. A lot of people really know their stuff. A lot of ardent collectors and stuff. So it's not the be all end all, but it does get noticed, and it makes our voices known, I think.
Yeah, well, I think taking the results that we had last time with what we've seen either come out or have been announced between then and now, just more than anything, I think it speaks to the fact that Hasbro might just be listening to the fans and have their finger on the pulse. And it's fun when those things match up, especially on something that is, as historical with Fwoosh as this top 10 is, because I know there were a couple of years in there that, I'll be honest, I wasn't really interested in Marvel Legends at all.
Oh, Nick, you have to get off this call right now.
But I always took time to make sure that I would let my voice be heard. I may not be collecting them so much right now, but this is what I want.
Right. Yeah. Well, isn't that the truth? All right. Well, hey, Brett, you don't happen to have your personal votes handy, do you?
I'm not telling you that. No. Actually, my My top 10 is pretty close to what the actual top 15 or 20 actually is.
Oh, okay. Well, then we'll hold that back because we don't want to spoil too much. But I was able to look up mine because obviously I wanted to see how things compared. And I guess I should point out to everyone that's listening here. Obviously, Brett has the results in a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist. But he has shared the results with Nick. So Nick is in the know right now. But
I've had some time to let it simmer.
Oh boy, and he sounds a little disappointed too, guys.
It's not that bad.
But I'm in the dark. I don't know from Jump Street what's on the list. But I will tell you if it's of any interest to anybody. If it's not going to put anyone to sleep, I'll tell you. These were my 10, in no particular order. Captain Marvel, that being Monica Rambeau. So whether you want to call her Photon, Pulsar, whatever, we need
many
her
names.
Yeah, and which I'm sure you had the joy of normalizing in the ballots, right?
Actually, it wasn't as bad this year. People kind of set forward with the Captain Marvel vote with the Monica Rambeau title. There was a couple of Monica Rambeau votes, but pretty solid Captain Marvels all the way around.
Yeah, I can't remember which. I think I did Captain Marvel with the Monica Rambeau in brackets, but I did think about it for a long time and think maybe I should just put Monica Rambeau because everyone puts that in.
Everybody knows who that is, right?
Yeah.
Why do I have a hard time not calling her Photon? I don't know why that is.
Well, that's the
Photon
thing.
Forever, but
and I don't think any of those other names stuck as much as Captain Marvel. Which
is crazy. I had 2 Photon votes. That was it.
Huh. And nobody calls her Pulsar, right? Which is actually her name now in the comics, isn't it?
It's maybe.
Well, it's the most recent one I'm aware of, but who knows? They change it so much.
We're old.
I know. God. By the way, all these people need to be in the costumes that I remember them in. So Monica Rambeau, Bug from the Micronauts. And I feel that's somebody that they, that's actually a Marvel character, so they ought to have the rights to it. And he was in Guardians of the Galaxy at one point, so
that's true.
Let's get him in there. Mastermind from the Brotherhood, Destiny from the Brotherhood, Crystal, which Nick you also had on your list.
Yes, Crystal is on my list.
Yeah, Rom, which I know is a pipe dream, but I still need to vote for him so that everyone knows that it's a travesty that we'll never get him.
Well, did you see our Facebook post from the Plaid Stallions?
I did.
Over the weekend with Ron the Space Pimp. His head looks strikingly familiar to maybe that other character, but he's got a little pimp outfit going on.
Yeah, did you see that, Brett?
I did see it. I'll still take it.
Yeah, I'll take it too. It was pretty sweet. That was it was for anybody out there that didn't see it. Go on Facebook, look it up. But it's basically, and Plaid Stallions is a great site that's devoted to vintage, mostly 70s toys and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, so if you're in your late 30s, mid 40s, you'll love it. But they had basically like a Ken doll with a Rom, the old Rom Parker Brothers head. And he's got the shirt unbuttoned to his navel and fully pimped out 70s
flashy.
Yeah, it was sweet. So let's see: Mantis, Atuma, Whirlwind, and Lockjaw. Those are my votes.
That's a pretty solid list, and I actually have to say we have a few commonalities between yours and mine, but man, I wish I would have had room for Atuma on this list. He wasn't on my top 10 this time, but man, he would make a great looking action figure.
Well, in your top 10, you had a lot of redos. First of all, you devoted half your list to the Fantastic Four.
It's not a half a list. It's only like...
Yeah, what, 2/5?
Okay, 2/5, yeah, all right. But the rest were Inhumans, which are basically Fantastic Four characters. So
that's true. And I thought about going with the unique characters only that haven't been done list because that used to kind of be my mantra for doing these top 10 lists. But I like Marvel Legends as action figures better now than I think I ever have in the past. So it really does. This was kind of an exercise in me calling up the fact that there are a lot of good characters out there that need new figures, and I tried to make a little bit of both on the list, but actually the redos won out this time, and it's just because there are so many figures that I love that are just due new figures that are up to the standards of what we're getting right now.
Yeah, I feel you on that, and we talked about that a couple weeks ago, and and especially you had Daredevil and Vision on there, really the two, along with the Fantastic Four, and I can't argue with you. They just didn't this time around for me. It didn't quite tip the scales over some of these guys that I wanted, but I would absolutely go with redos of some of those A-listers.
Yeah, so. Well, I mean, just for the sake of having mentioned it, then obviously the top 4 of my top 10 were the Fantastic Four. Then I had Daredevil, which, man, I would have thought we would have had a new Daredevil by now. Vision, which I'm hopeful for with, Avengers 2 next year. And then Karnak, Gorgon, Triton, and Crystal, rounding out the top 10 with Lockjaw bringing in the Build-A-Figure. So you're right, Lockjaw. It's pretty much Fantastic Four with the Inhumans, but they're starting to become popular. Marvel's starting to push them, so I don't know.
Daredevil's got a Netflix series coming, so
yeah, I feel good about my list. Hopefully shaking out within the next couple of years, but we'll see.
Brett, who was your Build-A-Figure choice?
Lockjaw.
Oh, okay. Then
all right, so we're unanimous on that.
Just to touch on what Nick said, is the stuff that Hasbro is doing now with the Legends, just the bodies. I think these are the best action figures that I have in my collection.
Yeah.
Ever. So I want guys like Nick said, Daredevil, Vision. I got a new Captain America, so I'm happy about that. But how about a classic Cap? That kind of stuff.
Classic Cap would be great.
I want all these guys on these new awesome bodies that Gentle Giant is just crushing to have then add to the shelves.
Yeah,
stuff.
Well, and I mean that's a testament to Gentle Giant and Hasbro as well, is that I could have made a list solely devoted to redone female figures, just because you can't make any comparisons to the previous female figures that we've gotten to what we're now getting with characters like Moonstone and the upcoming Warbird and other Captain Marvel, Ms. Marvel. Sorry, they're just so much better than what we've gotten in the past.
Yeah, and even the ones. I mean, we're talking about some of the the best ones, and there's a lot of best ones that have come out recently. But even the ones that like sometimes are sort of like skirting the mark that. Like, for example, I'm thinking of the Magneto that just recently came out in the X-Men lines, and a lot of people were sort of, so. There's some things about him, but let me tell you, when you put him up against the Magneto from 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whatever it is, he's better than the one we had. We sort of forget, because a lot of these, Marvel Legends started in basically 2000, 2001, 2002. Between Spider-Man Classics and Marvel Legends, and when they came out, it was like revelatory, but there's been so many advances since then. When you go back and look at some of the ones from the very early series, they were great in 2001, but even the some of the medium stuff that Gentle Giant and Hasbro are doing now is better than.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
So,
I'm not an apologist for. Legend used to be. I'm not stuck in. Some of those figures are nice. Some of those figures do not hold up at all anymore.
Right.
No, and honestly, I think saying that doesn't make you a bad person either, because here's the fact: there are very few figures that are on your shelf right now that came out probably at the same time as when the original Marvel Legends did that you would refer to them as still being, cutting edge or the best of the action figure world. It's just not like that anymore. Advances are made every single series with action figures. They are. So, to want the characters that, if you want to call them A-list or whatever, on new bodies under this new form, to me, it makes perfect sense, because you want them to be on par with the more, esoteric characters that we're getting, like Radioactive Man, just to say. I need a thing that is just as good, if not better, than a Radioactive Man. And I think when you say it like that, it makes total sense.
Yeah. All right, well, shall we get to it?
Oh my gosh.
It's very exciting.
Shall we start? What are we going to do? Are we going to count down backwards?
Well, that's what I was thinking. What do you think, Brett? Backwards?
We're going backwards.
All right.
Right.
But are you going to start with the Build-A-Figure, or are you going to save the Build-A-Figure till last?
Ooh.
The vote for that is such a beating that it's not even a contest, really. So we can do that out the way now. If you want.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
And the Build-A-Figure is...
It's Lockjaw.
Yes!
All right.
Oh.
I have a feeling this might be the only character that I voted for that actually made the official list, so I'm quite happy.
Well, and
Lockjaw had 27 votes for Build-A-Figure. The next closest person was Stature with 10. So
there you go. He's crushing it. Now, Nick, I think I mentioned this to you, and I'm sure, when this was said to me, it was, some slightly sardonic, but also I feel like it was sort of true. But I guess it was a couple of years ago at a toy fair or Comic-Con. It must have been New York Comic-Con because they don't usually do panels at toy fair. But it was a Hasbro panel. Dwight was there, and there was some Q&A with the audience. And I asked about getting a Lockjaw figure, and he told me straight up, he was like, "Never going to happen. Will never happen." But
I've never heard anyone in the toy industry say that before.
Right, but people want Lockjaw. It's not a crazy kooky thing to want. But
No, it's not. And when it's in a Build-A-Figure category, it makes it something altogether different. And to be honest with you, if Marvel keeps pushing the Inhumans the way that they are in the comics, which to me is a prelude to things that they have planned for the Marvel Studios, there's no way that they're going to be able to avoid doing Lockjaw in the future. I really do believe that.
Well, once they put him in a movie,
an Inhumans movie,
well,
he's coming out.
He'll be the Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah, or Groot.
yeah, and I don't need Lockjaw to have 85 points for articulation either.
Yeah, I'd be cool with like 4.
Yeah.
It's a nice, perfectly sculpted Lockjaw. That's fine.
Yeah. Absolutely, and he also needs to be able to teleport. But besides that,
I mean, that's where the money will go. We'll sacrifice the points of articulation so he can teleport.
Oh, perfect. All right, well,
all
right, number 10.
All right. Now there's a bit of a tie in a couple of these, so this list is gonna be longer than 10. It'll be around 13 or 14, but at 10 we got a tie with 17 votes.
Okay.
We got Havoc in his modern costume, which all votes pointed to. Mm-hmm. And we got Namor. Now, Namor had a 50-50 split between classic and his modern look.
Interesting.
I don't even know what Namor's modern look is.
Well, his modern look is that 70s, like, the one that from the earlier Toy Biz Marvel Legends film.
Oh, okay.
Or something close to that, right? Oh, God, I'm talking out my butt because he's probably wearing some totally new thing that I don't even know about now, right?
Right. But it was a pretty even split there, which is kind of surprising. I thought for sure all the kids would want the cool new modern look, but sometimes Speedo wins out.
Well, and Hasbro did do the Speedo early on.
That's the thing. I mean, the old Toy Biz Namor is certainly better than the old Hasbro Namor. So,
it's tough. Yeah, I mean, neither of them are great. Although the head sculpt on the Toy Biz one is still pretty great.
Oh, it's very still.
Yeah.
And he still has an awesome base.
Yeah, well,
I love that water base.
Oh, the water base. Yeah, definitely. It has many uses. You could use that for your Aqualad figure that you never got from Mattel.
I am right now. You just can't see him. He's invisible.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, Namor was on my lists for a long time, and then I sort of gave up once Hasbro made that sort of stab at it, which is not.
But he's a huge character.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten a figure from him since like Nick said, that first Hasbro release, but he's definitely a guy who's due. He's been in the X-Men books.
Well, and perfect example of using one of the new bodies, because he would be great. Like I could see him on either the Black Panther body or the Hyperion body, maybe,
or a new body in between.
Yes, which is what we really need, right?
Yeah, and a perfect time to devote one to him.
There you go. And talk about a sculpt that's reusable. It's a naked guy, so you can use it for anything.
Yep, need one of those.
You can use a naked guy for anybody.
I could always use a naked guy, right?
But see, Havoc's a good one too, because now this is his. All the votes were besides one vote were all modern. So we had 16 votes for modern, one for I think it was X Factor. I just combined it in. Sorry, X Factor guy. But, his modern look, he's in the Uncanny Avengers book, so he's popular. We haven't gotten a figure of him since, way back in Toy Biz days, and that figure wasn't great, but it's not terrible. But
and it's also the Cockrum design too, so there's plenty of room. His current design is really popular, so it's wide open to get that. Yeah,
I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, I would take that. I don't think he would ever, make a list of mine anytime soon, but it is a cool outfit, so I'd take it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Next.
All right, moving on. We got a three-way tie at 9.
Oh, my God. All these ties.
All right. We have Blink,
Mm-hmm.
Quasar, and Multiple Man. All tied with 18 votes.
Quasar.
Wow.
Wow. That is interesting. I wouldn't have expected to see Quasar.
No, that was the one out of left field for me. I had no clue that he would get that many votes.
Did you get a lot of people specifying what costume for him?
I didn't. And that's what kind of surprised me.
Yeah, because he's got a lot, and some of them are truly awful.
Yeah.
But I would take a Quasar. I mean, he's an Avenger / cosmic character that would fill out some rosters for me. I would like Nick, like you were saying about Havoc. I don't think he'd make one of my lists anytime soon, but I would take him if he was in one of his more aesthetically pleasing ensembles.
I think there's been a lot more books lately with the new Guardians of the Galaxy books and tie-ins to that. I think he's been more prevalent, but yeah, that was the one out of left field shocker for me.
Cool. Well, this may say something about me, but while my first impulse is to laugh at Quasar, I would say the other two people that he was tied with on that list, I'd take him before Multiple Man and Blink, personally. Is that weird?
I agree. I would too.
I need a Madrox figure. I have to have one.
Yeah.
Figure.
Figures.
I think they'd have you on the hook for at least 3, right?
Now Multiple Man / Madrox is not a huge surprise because he's been on the last few top 10 lists. I'm sorry. But
I do get a lot of votes for Multiple Man / Madrox / whatever, but it's all the same guy. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I actually was kind of surprised when they did make him for the Marvel Universe line a couple years ago, and I was surprised that they went with his more traditional superhero costume as opposed to his more contemporary t-shirt, overcoat, whatever. Yeah, because that seems to be that's the iteration of him that really became popular.
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised when they finally came out with him. It was the more classic one, but I'm sure if they do him in Legends, it'll be the more current one. And they did tease. There was a couple years ago at one of the conventions where they had some mock-ups of various figures, and they're like, "Hey, would you be interested in any of these guys?" And he was one of them at that time. So
yeah, I think it was a Fury body with the trench coat.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's almost too easy.
Yeah, and then Blink. I don't think she has appeared on any of the actual top 10s in my memory, but she's always comes up in conversation. She's pretty popular, so
she took a big jump. But
yeah,
she has recent comic appearances too, so I guess that helped her.
Cool. All right, well, moving on.
All right, all by himself, and number 8 is Wonder Man, and the Safari jacket got 12 out of 19 votes. So
there you go.
Wow, I'll take it.
So there was a few modern in there, a few Safari, a few first appearance, that kind of thing. So, but Safari Jack had the most votes at 12.
Well, Wonder Man is. I kind of had my list that had Daredevil, Vision, and a few other guys that I felt really need to have updates that weren't a Fantastic Four member, and he was the one that I just dropped off of my list at the last second, but I'm ready for a new Wonder Man figure. That old Toy Biz one that shared that body with that Black Panther that was wrong for both of them that's
right. He is. I forgot he was on that Black Panther body. I was trying to remember which body that was. Yeah, that was kind of too bad.
Yeah, but the safari jacket would be a fun take on him. I mean, I'd take him in his the same costume as we got him in Toy Biz if it made for an easier get for an action figure. But
I'd take a first appearance one too.
Yeah, but I think his the one we got or the modern version is what we're going to end up getting. I think Safari Jacket has zero to little chance of getting made. Just because
I think you're probably right. Not only is it sort of a one-off sculpt, but it's not the most toyetic. Mom and kids. Don't you want the Jurassic Park guy with the shades?
Wait, you mean Jeff Goldblum? Because then yes, I do want that.
Perfect casting. I think we'll get modern if we get a Wonder Man.
Yeah, I think you're right. But
well, he could be one of those guys that shows up in an Avengers wave because they do characters that aren't in the movie but are have that carryover from the Avengers characters and whatnot. So I think he could be quite probable in the next year or so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Wonder Man, good solid choice. Who's next?
All right, number 7, we got Mockingbird, and all the one vote was for her modern outfit, which I'm totally fine with. This is one of my votes right here.
All right, Mockingbird. All right. Yeah, she's cool. she's barely missed my list for a long time because she is probably one of the 3 Avengers that have never had a figure that are the most important Avengers left. And I would, while my preference would be for her 80s costume, her original costume, the new one is actually A, not that far off the old one design-wise, and B, probably actually a little better. So I'd be cool with the modern one.
Yeah. I mean, we're finally going to get that Hawkeye figure, so let's have Mockingbird to go with him.
Yeah, totally. I mean, in the modern costume, like Tony said, it's not. It's nice looking and it's not that far off from the classic, So this has got a little more modern sensibility to it.
Yeah, sort of just like they took the classic one as a launching point and sort of redesigned it for updated it basically.
Yeah, it's not drastically different. She's not wearing all black with all.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because sometimes I don't pay as close attention to some of the rumors and articles and stuff. But was there a rumor that there is a Bobby Morse Shield character in the next Avengers movie? Did I just make that up out of whole cloth, or where did I pull that from?
No, I thought maybe I heard it was the television show.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe, but I don't know.
No, I think you might be right. I think that might be where I remember it from. But in any case, she's definitely on the Marvel media radar. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. But with that Shield show, I think anybody related to the Avengers or Shield is rumored to be on that show at some point. So
well, and not to go too far off topic, but that's what's kind of cool about having the Avengers play out in the movies and the Shield show play out on TV is that the TV show actually gives you a chance to get some of these guys that probably don't have a great chance of making it into the movie, but you get to see them in some type of new modern media format. So I think that's cool.
Pay attention, DC and Warner Brothers.
There's a whole other show. Man, we've got shows on shows planned out.
We do. Well, Brett, we'll definitely have to have you back for like a DC-themed show because, you are DC biased.
I'm not. That's just a rumor. It's a vicious rumor that Robo started.
That's okay. I'm typically DC biased, but
a couple of DC guys here doing the Marvel top 10 list. It's a conspiracy. Well, the Fwoosh, they don't really know about Marvel stuff. They only know DC stuff. So.
No, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that would love to say we don't know anything about DC.
and yep, and it's just as many. Oh yeah. Well, after they hear this podcast, they'll. All right.
The fact that Batman won the top 10, which is crazy.
I know.
Oh, what if it was possible? All right. So who's next?
All right, we got a tie at number 6. Both with 21 votes. We have Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, and Daredevil.
Oh man, that takes care of all of us on this list, right?
Dang.
Those are two of my votes right there. It's also.
Well, Daredevil, we were talking about him just a second ago. I'd be up for it, and he's got a show coming out, so I wouldn't be surprised. And that's easy.
And I know I've said it before, is that Daredevil, for some reason, he is one of those Marvel guys that, to me, I absolutely need a fantastic action figure of. I like Daredevil. I've loved Daredevil for a long time. I don't think he's in my top 5 Marvel characters, but man, to me, he is so toyetic, and he needs to have a good superposable action figure to do, crazy, 80s Daredevil, poses and things like that. We're so due for a new Daredevil.
Yeah, let's have interchangeable hands, all that stuff.
Yeah, I have the old Hasbro one on my shelf still, and while that's a nice figure, it doesn't compare to new stuff. So
no,
full on that that new Bucky Cap mold. More than happy.
Well, when he was out in the old Spider-Man Classics original Spider-Man Classics line, he was my favorite figure from that line, and it's like ever since then I've felt this need for his Marvel Legends figure to always be one of the best ones, and it's been a long time, so I'm ready.
Yeah, and it's funny when you think, I guess you could call him a top tier character, but you could, he's running that bubble between being an A-list or A- character. But he's had a lot of action figures when you think about,
he's toyetic. He's toyetic.
He is. But they've all had, certain strengths, each individual figure. But there hasn't been one that's really nailed it down, across the board. So
I agree with that because. The later Spider-Man Classics Toy Biz one, that one was very posable, but he had those stupid shoulders, that so many of the figures of the time had. And then that 2-pack Toy Biz one, that thing was such a wreck. The head sculpt was good on that.
Yeah, I was just going to say.
I hate to use the term over-detailed when it comes to an action figure, but that figure was over-detailed. He looked horrible.
Yeah, well, there were I loved the head on that, and both heads because there was a variant with the unmasked. But some of the detail was really cool, but you're right, it was over detail. It was like
all the sculpted folds and things like that. It's like Daredevil should be clean and tight, not foldy and
So all right, great, and obviously, Monica Rambeau for my money is, at least if you're talking about the Avengers section of the Marvel Universe, has got to be the most glaring omission. And some people might argue Mockingbird or someone else, but...
it's a big one.
Yeah, but she's a pretty big hole there, so...
Yeah, 21 votes, that's pretty solid. So, as many as Daredevil got, so that's just something that everybody wants her.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd take her for sure.
All right. Where are we at?
Number 5.
Oh, okay.
All by himself is Darkhawk with 22 votes.
Darkhawk.
And he was on the last.
He was in the last
list we did.
He's been there for a while, and you have to get a figure made, in 6-inch form. I think we got him in Marvel Universe.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nothing in 6-inch so far.
Well, he's a little bit out of my wheelhouse, being a '90s.
That's a '90s guy for sure.
Yeah. But that's a huge section of fandom. There's a lot of guys that want, and to be fair, that is, whether you think it's justified or not, the '90s is really an area that has not gotten a lot of action figure due in recent years from either Marvel or the DC end, really.
And it's been just damn long enough that nostalgia is actually starting to set in for some people in the 90s.
Most people are trying to forget it, but,
it's crazy.
And it's like, man, I really want,
Well, he'd be a pretty cool figure. I mean, the Marvel Universe figure of him is pretty cool, and I guess there's a lot of stuff that you could tool for him that could be reused for other more deserving characters.
Hey, look, both you old guys, he would make a great figure, I think.
Yeah.
And you slap him on that medium-sized Bucky body build, and nice head sculpt with the armor and some wing attachments, and there you go. You got a great figure. So I have no problem with Dark Hawk at 5.
Yeah, he'd definitely be eye catching, and he is one of those guys that he's floated around, maybe not on the top 10 officially for a long time, but the conversations about him online have been going ever since the Toy Biz days. So I'd say it's okay to consider him to be due at this point.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. I mean, he had his own series for quite some time, so.
Oh yeah, and he's still kicking.
Yep.
Yeah, that's more than I can say for some of my more characters.
All right, who's next?
All right, number 4, we have Executioner with 23 votes.
Ooh, nice.
Wow, Executioner, that's cool.
We have 23, 22, 21. These are all these votes are so close.
Now Executioner, I'm not surprised at all that he's on the list, but I'm a little surprised that he's at number 4.
Well, he was. I think he was 11 or 12 last year. He just missed a cut last year.
Right.
Did he get split between the regular vote and the Build-A-Figure vote? Because I think he's one of those guys that sometimes people have a tough time placing him.
Oh, yeah, right.
Was a couple Build-A-Figure votes, but...
Was there? Okay.
Yeah, I would personally, I'd definitely see him on that Sentry body, the Hyperion body.
Yeah.
Sure.
Fit perfectly on there, yes.
Yeah. Well, I bet I know who is going to be in the top 3 then, because this Executioner is never far from his lady love.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably not.
All right, Executioner, and Executioner is a character that has not shown up yet in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but
he could. It's like he could at any moment, though.
Well, I was just going to say they are making a third Thor movie, and I don't know who's left to menace Thor if it's not the Executioner, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I don't know, Thor, little people from the Thorverse, they always end up having cool figures, and they've got good lines and costumes and things that are toyetic. So Executioner he'd be a pretty badass action figure.
Yeah, and if he's in the third Thor movie, I guarantee he's getting a figure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's the big bad. I mean, it's and especially, and obviously Enchantress is the the elephant in the room, because she's also, although her sister appeared on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show, which I wonder, in terms of the studio, if they feel like now they can't use Enchantress in the movie because it'll seem like they ripped off the TV show or something like that. But
it's all tied in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, Executioner, solid. I'll take him.
All right, and now this is where we have a big jump in votes. These are all kind of close together, and these top 3, it kind of blew everybody away.
All right.
Number 3 was Rogue. She had 35 votes. Now we had multiple costume votes here. We had anything from classic Jim Lee to modern with the Uncanny Avengers, but tie them all together and you got 35 for old Rogie.
Well, if that unreleased Marvel Legends figure in packaging that's on eBay right now is any indication, since I think it's like creeping around $4,000 at this point, I would say Rogue is due, and she's ready. She's ready to go. I mean, that figure may not be the preferred version that everybody would want. Although I have to say that I think I've gotten to the point now that I think I like that costume better than just about anything she's ever worn. But yeah.
She's had so many different costumes. It's hard to,
But that one, that one with the hood, it balances all of the things that I like about past Rogue costumes and gets rid of all the stupid things that she's been. It seems like weird costume epaulets or whatever you want to call them seem to follow Rogue around, and that one just cleaned them up.
But almost is her classic costume, because her classic costume was hooded with green and white stripes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like the one she wore like in Secret Wars.
Yeah,
in that era. Yeah.
Popped her hair down a little bit, I guess.
But I do hate that body it's on though, so I wish they could make a whole new one.
Yeah, I'm with you. A couple of those unreleased figures, I kind of hope that they don't come out, because I want to see them on the bodies that they've even developed since then.
That isn't that the case that it's always been with Legends? It's like, as long as it keeps going, something that we thought was okay in midstream is all of a sudden going to be like, ugh, no, don't ever do that again. So that's one of the that's one of the dangerous things that you walk when you keep making such strides, as Legends always has. But it's not perfect, but it's not terrible to me, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's definitely better than any other figure she's had. So.
Oh yeah, when it was terrible, but now you have the Satana, the Moonstone body. Then you got the Storm in between that, which would be perfect for her.
Yeah.
Well, and it would be great if she was on the same body as Warbird, as Carol Danvers, because they share so much of the power sets.
Powers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I could definitely see Rogue. That doesn't surprise me. Seeing her in that number 3 spot. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that it's all women for the last two. The top 3 is going to be all women.
All women's. Yes, all women's. And the same women's as last time. So
there it
but
is.
The question is, which one of these 2 women that are left came out on top? That's going to be the question. All right. Who's the runner-up?
Number 2, we got Polaris with 38 votes.
There it is.
Yep. She's cool. She's due. And with that new Scarlet Witch figure coming out, it's like it's not going to get any easier.
Yeah. Guys, this is your best shot right here. So let's get it done. And same thing with Rogue. I had a bunch of different costume votes: classic, modern. But
Polaris really is one where it's like, because she's got the Shi'ar costume, which is my personal favorite, and she wore for a long period when she was very active, but also then has worn. But it's not the costume she's worn the most.
No.
So.
But then again, what is her definitive look? So
lots of green. Lots of green.
I actually think her modern look is pretty solid. I'd be happy with that one.
Yeah, and again, I think that one would borrow a lot of pieces from the Scarlet Witch that's upcoming as well. So,
right,
cool. And I guess that leaves not much of a surprise for number 1,
KG Beast. and Trish is the big winner with 43 votes, and just like last year, she came up on top. So
it is easy being green in the Fwoosh top 10.
Oh yeah, especially the top 3 green ladies.
Yeah.
Wow. Ladies wearing green,
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's face it, mostly gentlemen. Enchantress is the winner, and Enchantress wore pretty much the same costume her whole tenure. So
never got a figure. So
yeah, they did finally make a Marvel Universe figure, right? She's got a 4-inch figure,
right?
So
which is a small consolation prize for most of us,
right? I can't see them going much longer without doing her. I mean, the thing going against a lot of these characters, obviously, is female characters get produced, 1/6 of the time that in the amount that the male characters do, but Hasbro's pretty good with the female characters recently, and see what they revealed at Comic-Con. There was a lot of new female reveals, so maybe we'll actually get a few of these in the coming year and a half.
Right, hopefully, and they won't be all short packed.
Yeah.
None of that running change stuff. Ugh.
Yeah. That really, it seems like they really learned a lesson in terms of the running change situation. So hopefully we don't go back to that.
Well, it's in my mind, if they keep following the similar formula that they've been doing lately, that's pretty conducive to getting us some female figures. So I'd like to see 2 per wave, but I think that's getting a little out in front of us. But I don't think it's not related to the fact that the top 3 are all females, and females are harder to produce. So I think it's kind of like a chicken or the egg type of thing. That we just don't get females as often in Marvel Legends, so the demand for these top 3 being so far above everybody else, there's an obvious correlation there because they just haven't had the opportunity to get their due.
Yeah.
Which also add in Captain Marvel, Monica Rambeau, Mockingbird, and Blink. So females are wanted.
Yeah.
And one that I want to mention as well, and not to give anything away because the full results will be posted on the front page in a week or so, but another one of my favorites, Kitty Pryde, was just outside of the...
Oh, yeah. Talk about a figure that needs a redo. Yeah, she really could
Kitty and Colossus are my two favorite X-Men characters, so... and her modern costume is fantastic. I love the characters, so...
One of you guys hopefully will know this, or else I'm going to have to get on my iPad and look this up. Who recently posted a custom of Kitty Pryde on the Fwoosh?
I think it was Raybot, wasn't it?
I think it was Raybot. I was going to say, but I didn't want to in case it wasn't.
Yeah, I like the ponytail look that he went with her, and it would be such an easy figure for Hasbro to do.
He did such a great job on that. That is a clean looking figure, and that costume looks great. Yeah. I mean, if I got a figure like that, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, females, they're obviously wanted from a collector standpoint, but then again, we'll get into the conversation about who is it that buys the most Marvel Legends. But, that Warbird Captain America Radioactive Man box set that's, I guess, now finally just starting to drop. At Target stores. I mean, those are great ways to get more females out there. It's just, I think when you have multiple females on your top 10 list, you have to kind of be realistic about the amount of time that it's going to take to get them produced, because it's just the way that things are.
Yeah. I mean, they do sell, too. And, in your short pack, things like Black Widow, her demand was super high. It's leveled off now, and everybody's got a figure of her at this point. For movie Black Widow, I mean, it sells. You don't see those characters peg warming.
Well, same with Black Cat.
And Storm from the X-Men wave.
Jubilee, just the whole Jubilee wave is based on that Storm figure. And good luck trying to build one without Storm.
They My Toys R Us doesn't always do a great job in terms of the number of cases and restocks that they do, but they've been better with Marvel stuff recently. But they did get the X-Men stuff, and the stuff that is hanging there is the stuff that was two to a case. Cyclops and Wolverine. Yeah, that's what they've got. So all the other ones are gone. So I don't know what that tells you. You know what I mean? Like Cyclops and Wolverine did not sell twice as well as the other characters, at least at my store.
Right.
So,
yeah, I would still like to find the Magneto from that wave, but I mean, Storm. I've never seen Storm, so in person. So I've seen everybody else. I've seen Magneto. He was just ridiculously overpriced, but Storm's got the big Jubilee piece in there, but to me, a Jubilee is just as worthless without a leg as she is without a torso. So,
who came with her trench coat?
I think that's Storm, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does the trench coat come with the body?
It's together, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, what good's a Jubilee without, a leg as she is, without a torso? So I think that argument's a little moot, but Storm's the one that's running away being elusive, and I think it's because it's a very popular character, it's a female, and it's a cool look. So
we really need her classic uncanny X-Men look, though.
Oh, man, talk about never been.
Yeah. Oh, that's just... I'm sort of actually surprised. I guess it's because we just got that Storm figure that we did, but I'm a little surprised that she didn't place in this top 10. Is she close in the?
She was close. She was not as close as Kitty was, but she's there, top 20.
Yeah.
Not as close as Firestar either. May I might add.
Oh,
which. Say what you want. For some reason, Firestar's always been one of those figures that's been hovering around my top 20, probably just because I think she's got a cool design.
Well, you're going to get a Hellcat figure with yellow joints soon.
True.
So.
That's true.
Now, speaking of that Hellcat figure, you guys talking about Inhuman figures. Crystal didn't, got a few votes, as did Triton, Karnak, Gorgon, so that Hellcat will make a pretty solid Crystal figure too.
Yeah. I had a pretty shameful attempt at a crystal custom years ago when I first got back into customs, but I'm looking forward to giving it another try with the with an extra Hellcat. Yeah, especially the joints, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, overall, I think that's a pretty solid top 10. I mean, you can go around and talk about how, well, it's not exactly what I voted for all day, but of course it's not exactly what you voted for. But I think recognizing the strength of the list based on the characters that are on it, not only for the fact that they're, good characters, but they're also characters that have gone without for a long time. To me, there isn't one character on this top 10 list that wouldn't be a fine seller in a Marvel Legends wave. I think they're all solid.
And what's funny? I think that if my memory serves me, and I said this to you the other week. I think my very first post on the Fwoosh ever was a vote in a Marvel top 10 list, probably umpteen years ago. But I don't ever remember the results of a top 10 list where I would probably get any one of these figures if they made it. Usually there's half the list where I'm like, I don't want that, But there's maybe 2 figures of all these ones that we went through that I would pass on if they actually made them.
Yeah, I would need all of these guys. Everyone.
Yeah. And like you said, Nick, I think they would all sell. I think they all actually have a chance. Every once in a while on one of these lists something pops up for whatever reason. Either the design of the character or licensing or something, whatever it is. There's something about it that's like, well, that could never happen.
Well,
but any of these could.
It's interesting to me to look at the characters that are on this list and then think about what Marvel is doing from a comics and movie perspective. And you can argue all day about this, that they're trying to push certain characters on people and people are immune to that kind of thing. But if you look at this list, with maybe the exception of Quasar and Darkhawk and maybe Blink's a little outside there, if you look at this list, all of these characters are tied to extremely popular properties, not only in comics but movies right now. So it's interesting to see that the results have kind of drifted towards what is actually really being pushed by Marvel right now.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and they editorial, publishing side, studio side, whoever it is that makes those decisions about what characters are going to get spotlighted and showcased, obviously that decision gets made somewhere. Even if you were a small independent press putting out, a couple of comic books, you decide which characters you want to showcase. But what makes them popular is if you put them in a good story, if you're doing good work with them, and that's what Marvel's done, especially with the movies at least.
Well, no, absolutely, you're right, because they have done such a good job with the movies and whatnot. So if you can get
people say, oh, they're trying
movie.
people say, oh, they're trying to push, Rocket Raccoon. Well, they put him in a movie, but they don't need to push him. People like the character. They did a good job making a great character that everybody likes.
Well, and if you think about something like the Avengers, which has become insanely popular, and it's going to only get more popular, I think. And you think about the characters that are in there that are, enjoying this popularity. But if you take somebody like Wonder Man, who hasn't been in a movie or pushed that way, but he's on this list
he
right
has
now.
been in many movies in the comic book.
Well, yes, that's true. But he has not been in a Marvel Studios movie.
Sure,
but if you think about it from that perspective, is that fans of Wonder Man are people who have always liked him, but he's never been their number one choice. All of a sudden, he has the opportunity to kind of enjoy some of the greatness that is coming with these movies that some of these other characters are, and people start thinking, yeah, man, get Wonder Man in there.
Yeah. Get Quasar in there.
Wonder Man in an Avengers film, he'd be through the roof. People would want him. I mean, he's basically Superman, so...
And also, what a great storyline that would be for an Avengers film, because, when you think about the possibilities for Avengers film, Marvel Studios films, you've got... the first one obviously was sort of an origin with the coming together of all these different characters, that was sort of a no-brainer. And next they're doing the the Ultron, sort of global threat level type thing. But they can't just keep repeating that. Although obviously in the comics that trope has comes every decade or so. But you can't do that in the next movie. So what an interesting story the Simon Williams Wonder Man story would be. Like the whole good guy turned evil turned good. Secret saboteur Avenger type. That would be really cool to see, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like Brett said, like someone with that power set, that's not. I mean, I guess Thor is super strong. The Hulk is the beast, and Thor has these godlike powers. But in the Marvel Studios universe, you don't have a character with that almost like Superman power set like that. Would be really cool to see that dropped in the middle of everything.
Well, and eventually you've got to have somebody that can give the Hulk and Thor a run for their money. So
yeah.
Well,
maybe they'll steal our idea.
Guys, we need this toy made, so will you go ahead and put him in?
It only takes 200.
Please.
Yeah, he's got to be in a safari jacket though. It's the only thing.
At least for a little while, that'd be awesome.
We'll make a couple of phone calls, and then all of a sudden, Black Widow gets replaced by Wonder Man. So there it goes.
A couple of things I had about the top 10. The top 10 votes had a lot of votes as far as, you're talking about in the high teens, in the high 20s, even Enchantress had 43. We had 371 characters voted for. So, that tells you there's a lot of people out there who want, I had one vote for one person, one vote for another person. It's
Well, I think that's worth mentioning. I think that's worth mentioning because sometimes the reaction is like, oh, well, the number one person on the list got 43 votes. Why did she only get 43 votes? Well, it's because, there are a lot of characters out there that are getting votes, and I guarantee you there are plenty of people's top tens who are represented as they're the only ones that voted for any one character, in their top 10. So
the guy that voted for Frogman.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot of characters that these votes are split out against because we got hundreds of votes this time. So it really does take some scratching and fighting and clawing to get to the top of the heap with this. And when you do, it's not going to be like you're running away with 300 votes.
Right.
Right.
And that was a Frogman vote, by the way.
There was a who?
A Frogman vote.
Oh, I'm willing to bet that was our friend I Bet My Man thing.
I hope so.
Brett, you mentioned that most of your list matched up pretty close with a lot of the stuff that made it.
Yeah.
Was there one character that you voted for that didn't make the top 10 or even close, that you just is sort of like a one of your great wants that failed this time out?
Not too far off. I voted for Magic in her modern costume.
Oh, okay.
And I believe she ended up somewhere outside of the top 10. I think she was maybe top 30 or so.
Now, didn't we see a prototype of her at San Diego Comic-Con recently? With Dormammu? Weren't she and Dormammu two slides that they showed like unpainted?
You might be right. You might be right.
Yeah, I don't know what costume, but you may actually have the last laugh on that one.
I don't remember that, but I also voted for Vision, and then I voted for White Rabbit too. So
well, there you go. That would actually be a really cool
White Rabbit actually got 11 votes this time around, so she made a big jump.
I think there was a grassroots campaign going for White Rabbit on there, but you're right. She would make a cool figure. It's just I see White Rabbit, many names ahead of a classic Captain America, and it's like, well, yeah, but at the same time,
yeah. Well, everyone assumes. Well, this is another thing. There's so many like strategies, right, for these votes. And I always wonder sometimes if the best strategy is no strategy, just like literally just vote for who do you want. Because a lot of people, I'm sure that most people of across the board, whichever niche of the Marvel universe you're most into, everyone wants a new classic Captain America figure, but everyone assumes that it's coming. So, like, nobody's going to vote for it because they figure, oh, that's a done deal. We're going to get that. But then, if he gets, like, 3 votes, maybe Hasbro says, people are sick of Cap,
Yeah,
but,
I think that's one of those things that I used to kind of think that way, but I've really become immune to it, especially with the Marvel top 10. It's that I hardly even read the discussion threads because at this point, I'm not really so much interested in, being swayed for what I'm going to vote for. I guess it's interesting to see what people are asking for. But at this point, especially with the Fantastic Four and, some of the characters like that, it's that these are who I want in Marvel Legends. And I'm going to continue to vote for these characters until they're made in Marvel Legends because they are that important to me, and I think they're that important to the universe overall, and they're all due decent figures because they don't have them. So,
and you're probably right. And the flip side of that is there's the people who don't vote for somebody because they think, oh, it's a done deal, we're going to get it. But then there's the people who, and I'm guilty of this, don't vote for somebody because they think, oh, it'll never happen. Now I leave Rom in my list, even though that's almost assured to never happen. But I can't not put him in there. But there's like characters that I can consider and then unconsider pretty quickly, like Puppet Master or Egghead or something, because just as a character design, like they're great classic villains that I would love to have in my collection, but as a character design, I don't see them ever getting made.
Well, I think there have been too many cases in the past, be it with Legends or DC Classics or things like that, where that assumption that something is going to get done and then it never happens, and people are like, oh man, I guess I really should have voted for that character. So I'm not going to let the Thing or Mr. Fantastic fall victim to that, because it may never happen. So.
Yeah. Well, out of curiosity's sake, how far were the FF down in the voting? How far out of the top 10?
Pretty far.
I think the Thing was the closest, but he wasn't within probably 10 votes of cracking the top 10. But the Fantastic Four, unfortunately, right now they've got so much working against them because they've had a rough go of it in the comics, and people are just loving to hate on the new movie that's going to come out. Their last 2 movies have been absolutely horrendous. So that may be another part of the reason why I feel that it's necessary for me to continue to show my support for them, because it's like, don't blame all this other bull crap. Think about having good Fantastic Four action figures on your shelf when you can make right all the wrongs that have happened and choose your own adventures. There
was a few votes for Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman and Johnny and the Thing, but the votes were split up between someone in the Future Foundation costume, someone in
We killed Nick.
Can hear Nick dying on the inside.
Yeah, probably a little on the outside.
Have we come out the other side of that in the comic books? Because I haven't kept up with the FF recently. Is there still a Future Foundation in the comic books currently?
I know they're getting, if they haven't already, they are getting back to their more traditional costumes with the more traditional lineup. But these are books that I continue to see and get that don't get read.
Well,
hey, you will catch up.
Yeah. Well, just not enough time.
Never enough time.
We had last year in the top 10, Silver Samurai was in there, and he made a huge drop off. He only had 11 votes this time around. So.
Oh, interesting.
See, I think that's one of those complacency things,
because we thought we were getting him at a certain point.
Could be. Usually, you don't see a guy drop off out of the top 10, unless we get a figure made. But
right.
He fell off. He lost a good 15 votes. So,
Well, and
interesting.
That's the thing. We thought we would get one, and then now it hasn't been happening. So that's one of those reasons why I would tell people that if you have a character that you want to see in Marvel Legends, don't get complacent with them. Continue to vote for them. Otherwise, you're just not gonna. The support. If everybody does that, then the support's going to evaporate, and then you'll have somebody like Silver Samurai, which Brett's right. It's very rare for a character to completely drop off the top 10 list once they've been there for a while, and he wasn't even close this time.
There you go. There you go. All right, guys. Well, I think that's about it for this edition of the FwooshCast. That is your official Fwoosh Marvel Legends Top 10.
Heard it here first.
So, get on the boards and analyze the heck out of it.
But don't
blame
it.
us.
Make people come and listen.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Brett, for handling that vote and for coming on and sharing the results with us. Much appreciated. I know tallying those votes is never, easy. So
yeah, it's not a fun process, that's for sure.
Making up
being on the front page makes it 100 times easier. So
yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely voting in the comments as opposed to on the board.
Yeah. Easier. So get used to it because it ain't going away.
Great. So after this, we'll be back on our bi-weekly schedule. So we'll be Nick and I coming back at you in a couple of weeks. Hopefully, we'll have a ton of toy crap to talk about and love and hate and all that good stuff.
Yeah, Brett, when are you coming back?
If y'all need me,
we gotta have you back for a DC show. There's a lot of DC TV stuff coming out.
Some good stuff on DC. They're not tying it together is the problem.
Right. I just as we're recording this, just the other day they announced the Teen Titans TV show that's now being developed.
On TNT.
Yeah, on TNT. T stands for Titans, I guess.
You can't spell Titans without TNT.
Without TNT. Of course, Arrow's coming back for Season 3, and of course The Flash, which everyone knows is coming, and Constantine.
Yeah.
And they just announced that Jim Corrigan is going to be a character on Constantine.
Wow.
So there you go.
That's
and
cool.
Gotham, which starts next week, right?
Yeah, Prod, are you excited for that? Because I'm actually thinking I'm going to sit down and watch that.
I'm going to watch it because I'm a sucker, but hopefully it's good. We'll see.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's Fox. It's a different production company, so everyone's assuming it's going to be CW-ified like Arrow and the Flash are, which some people like, some people don't. But I think Gotham might have a whole different tone to it.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this: I was actually at an audition the other day for something, and in the same casting office, they were casting an episode of Gotham, and there was a character that they were casting that I'm not sure if it's been announced yet that this character is going to be on the show.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, and I don't want to lose my SAG card by spoiling it here. It's not someone that would surprise you if I said it. If I said so and so is going to be a character on the show, it makes total sense. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have even teased that. I'm just going to tell you, but maybe I'll tell you guys off the air. Sorry, listening audience. But I'm interested to see how that goes because the promos and everything. It looks like a little bit on the Smallville side, but it could be different because it's a different bunch of people making the show. So I don't know.
If they stick to pre-Batman, Jim Gordon, Gotham, I think they can make a pretty solid show out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Toss in, random appearances from villains who should be the same age as Bruce is, but 15 years older or so, might have a problem there. So
yeah, because it's a lot of people have pointed out that Bruce Wayne is what, like 8 or 9 years old or something in
His
this.
parents just got killed first episode, I think is how.
Yeah, and so, but then you got like, you know, the Riddler and everything who are like in their late 20s. So it's like, okay, well, he grows up and he beats up all these 50-year-olds. That doesn't seem very fair.
No wonder he beats up senior citizens the whole time.
Right.
I'm going to be Batman.
All right. So, well, yeah, Brett, we'll definitely have you back the next possible moment, because that was a lot of fun having you on. So thanks again for coming on.
No problem.
Find us on Facebook. Leave us a comment. Let us know what topics you want us to talk about. There is so much that we can cover each week. You know, we obviously focus on toys, but we, as you can see, talk a lot about movies and TV and everything else. So let us know what you want to hear about. We'll discuss all of it. We're big old nerds. Shoot us an email at VB, that's VEEBEE at thefwoosh.com. Let us know how much we suck or how much we don't. You could check out the Fwoosh YouTube channel, where Robo Killa and Cannonball have a lot of great videos. First looks, figure reviews, some great stuff up there. You can also watch/listen to the FwooshCast on the Fwoosh YouTube channel, if that is your desired place to listen. But there's plenty going on. Check out the boards and let us know what's up. And hey, play nice. Thanks, everybody. All right. See you in a couple weeks.